it's Jen, and I am here to tell a story using the Ali Edwards Rest Story Kit. And I am using this photo of me and some awesome bed head. I sleep on my side, and it was just so obvious when I woke up in the morning which side I sleep on, and I thought it was hilarious. So I took a selfie, and that's what I'm going to document with this Rest Story Kit, because my out-of-control bedhead is definitely a part of my day and who I am, and I think it's a funny little story, so that is what I'm going to tell. So I printed my photo on an 8.5 by 11 piece of photo paper. This is a matte finished photo paper. This is something new I'm trying out. It's the Epson Professional Semi-Gloss or Luster or something like that. I'll link to it if I can remember in the comments below. Anyway, I cropped my photo to a 6 by 12, so I'm going to cut this part off. It's hard to see because it's mostly white, but you can kind of see where the edge is over here. And then my plan is to make this go all the way up the page, and I have a few pieces that I've pulled from the story kit that I for sure think I want to use, and these 3 pieces are going to kind of cover that join where that meets the top of the page. And then I'm going to use a couple of these cards to create some pillows. So I'm going to make these look like pillows, and then I am going to have this say bed head for the win. And so I have a bunch of different like alphabets chosen that I just have in my stash, and they mostly all have one of each letter, and so I'm just going to mix and match them just kind of for a funky different look. And so I will get started and talk you through my process. Alright, so I'm going to start by trimming down my photo. As I mentioned, it's 6 inches wide, so it's half the page there. And I love that color of cardstock. It's called Fig Swirl, I think, from Basil, and it is the perfect shade of gray, like just a really light gray. So here I've gone through my various letters, and I'm just using a bunch of letters that are not stickers, they're just free kind of. I can't think of the word I want to say, but I just used a mixture of fonts, and some of them are Ali Edwards and some are other ones that I had in my stash. And then I put those 3 little squares up at the top, and what I'm trying to do now is figure out which of these patterns I want to use as a pillow for the large one. I'm going to do 1 large one and 2 smaller ones. And so my idea was to do 2 3x4s and 1 4x6. And so I knew I wanted the striped one for the 4x6, and I thought I wanted to do one with the Z's as well. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here, and it's feeling just really busy. Now I want this to be kind of clean and simple, but there are different things that I'm going to do throughout to make that chaos of my hair kind of come through, even though the design is really simple, and I'll talk about that as I go on. But it's just feeling very, I don't know, there's too many different kinds of design elements, I guess. There's the icons at the top, and then the large letters, and then the different patterns, and so it was feeling a little bit too much to me. And so I decided instead of doing 3 patterned pillows, I would do 2 white and 1 patterned, and kind of get a little bit more white space that way. And the white pops just enough off of that gray cardstock, but not too much, just a little bit. And so it still keeps it pretty calm, and I really like that. So I'm trying to decide now if I want to move my photo over, and I don't like those 3 squares at the top, so I took them off, and so now my photo is only 11 inches tall, so I'm gonna have to figure out what I want to do about that. But first I decided to go ahead and kind of make my pillows. So what I'm doing is, I will zoom in here in just a second, but basically what I'm doing is I am using, well, first of all, I used a bone folder and just kind of, I'm using a foam pad, and you could use any kind of foam that you have. This happens to be the back of my craft mat, but I am using a bone folder to just kind of push all the way to the edges so that it bows in the middle. And then I used an embossing tool to kind of draw a line around the outside edge. And then what I did was, because these cardstock the cardstock for these cards is so thick. I spritzed it with a little bit of water just so the paper became pliable enough for me to kind of squeeze in the corners, because that's going to help the look of my pillow. And then I just used a little bit more pressure on my little embossing stylus and my bone folder to get more of a dimensional look. And in a second here, I'm going to show you how I'm going to keep that dimensional appearance. But I do all 3 pillows, so I do 2 white and 1 striped, and I'm not going to show you all 3, but you can kind of get the idea of how I created those. So now I have them done, and I'm going to use some foam tape in the centers of my pillows to keep that kind of fluffy look. And then I will adhere the edges so that they come down. So then it looks like it's a little bit puffed out. And in real life, it looks a lot more, I don't know, it looks better in real life. That's all. I guess I'll just say that. It looks okay on the video, but it looks a lot better in real life. So what I'm doing now, I'm trying to figure out a way that I can keep the corners pinched. And so just put a little tiny glue dot in the middle of the corner and then pinched it together so that it stuck the paper to its to the other side of it. And that seemed to work pretty well. My striped pillow, I put a little bit too much water when I spritzed it, and so it wasn't quite ready for me to add adhesive to it because it wasn't dry. And so here's my pillows, and you can kind of see the dimensional effect you get there. And I think maybe at this point that those 2 squares might look nice on the white pillows, and then I could put my journaling on the center pillow. And so I'm going to go with that for a minute. And I do like looking at it right now, I think that would have been okay, but I don't end up doing that. And so I'm wanting to use some of the chipboard pieces. I took out the word breath, but I'm not going to use that. I will use a different one. And I'm kind of trying to think about how I'm going to do this. And so whenever I don't exactly know what to do, I'll move on to the next thing. And so I know I want those letters there. And so what I'm going to do is, because most of these letters are transparent, I am going to stick them through my Xyron sticker maker, because that puts a full, not sheet, but it puts adhesive on the entire back of the piece, and then you don't see the adhesive through the transparent parts of it. So hopefully that made sense. I'm going to get this a little bit crooked, which drives me crazy. There were a few things on this layout that I didn't get quite straight that made me a little bit upset, but because I mentioned at the beginning that I wanted this to be kind of a clean layout, but I also wanted to introduce some of the chaos of my hair. So there's a few ways I'm going to do that. One of them is the fact that I chose different kinds of letters for my title, even though all the letters, the font of all the letters are very clean and simple. The fact that I used different ones and in different colors gives a little bit of chaos. The other thing is, right now I'm stapling those letters down, and rather than just put a straight staple on each one, I kind of move this stapler around so that each letter has the staple in a different spot and at a different angle. So that's another way that I'm kind of lending to that chaotic feel, even though it's very clean chaos here. If you have a tiny attacher and you want to staple in the middle of the page, you can just get a foam mat and open up your tiny attacher and then just fold the ends down on the back. So that's what I'm doing with my scissors there. And then I'm going to put some washi tape just to cover up I don't want it to get like poke through. And even though I'm going to put this on the back of, I'm going to put it on the paper, I'm just being cautious. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, and I decide to put my photo so that there's an equal amount of distance from the left and the top and the bottom. So that's about 1/2 inch, because I have a 12-inch page and an 11-inch photo. And so now what I'm doing is I'm putting some really thin adhesive, just some double-sided tape, on the edges of my pillow, because I mentioned I want the edges to go down and then the middle to puff up. And so that's how I'm going to achieve that. Now, here's another place where I didn't get things quite straight, and that's the pillows. And it drives me crazy, but I am embracing it and saying it's all part of the chaos that I'm trying to infuse into the layout in just little simple ways, even though it's not really, but. So I just I took off all of the adhesive backing on those and then adhered them down, and now I'm kind of fixing the scrunched up corners because I want them to have a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other two pillows, just putting that really thin. It's an 1/8 inch thick double-sided adhesive, and going to adhere those two pillows. And there's that second one. So at this point you can see I have that little heart on the center of my pillow, and I'm thinking it might end up there, but it doesn't. And I switched out that little triangle at the top for a different one that says just tired. And I like the way that it kind of looks like a house. The word bedhead with the triangle on the top. I don't know, but it made me laugh. So I cut up a card that says rest looks like this right now. And then there's another card that said embrace the chaos or something like that. Anyway, I thought that I should make it say rest looks like, or rest right now looks like, I think that's what it says. And then, so it says chaos. Anyway, words, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm having a trouble speaking. So another way that I'm kind of embracing that chaos is I'm going to put the word chaos kind of at an angle, and you'll see that in a little bit here. So I thought at this point I really liked those hearts, and I thought about putting that little Z pattern in the middle of one of the hearts, but I didn't like the navy because I have the black going on in the letters at the left. And so even though there's a little navy stripe in the center pillow, I decided to just go back into Photoshop and just switch that Z paper so that it had a gray background instead of a navy one. And I just used my paint bucket tool and changed the color from navy to gray. And I like that more. And it kind of fits with my layout a little bit more. So I put the word rest up on some very thin foam squares because I wanted it to stand out a little bit since it's white on white. And I also outlined the edges because, again, it's white on white. And so you'll see where I add a little bit more of that outlining in other places to help tie it in. So there is that piece, and now I'm going to make the word chaos kind of sit at an angle. And I like that, and it brings in a little bit of yellow, and you'll see me struggle here for a little bit to figure out how I can balance the yellow on the bottom and the middle on the top. And basically I need some on the top left. So you'll see me bring some other pieces in to try to figure that out here in a second. So I used some Thermoweb mixed media adhesive to adhere that acrylic heart to the paper, and now I'm just cutting around it. And that is my favorite adhesive for using with acrylic because it is so strong and I love it. So here at this point I've gone ahead and written my journaling. I went and typed it up on my typewriter, and I capitalized some of the words, and you'll see me in a minute here outline those to go along with the outlining at the bottom. And then I also just found a sticker from, I think it was the summer sticker set from Allie's shop. And I just stamped the date on there with my tiny roller date stamp, which I got on Amazon. I'll link to it. And then I kind of was trying to figure out how to bring in that yellow, and I was thinking either stars or the sun, because stars kind of represent sleep, but also this was right when I woke up, so I thought the sun would be good. And so I go ahead and go with the sun just because I like the way it kind of looks at the top there. Now this was another thing that kind of bothered me, but I'm going again with the whole chaos thing, is the fact that there's something going off of the top, but there's not something going off of the bottom. And so there's like an edge around the entire layout except for right there at the top with the sun. And so that's bothering me, but I let it go, kind of. So these are some old word chipboard stickers from a story kit. I think it was the Fun story kit maybe, or no, it was Surprise. Anyway, it wasn't quite the right yellow, and so I'm using a yellow permanent marker to change up the color just a little bit to make it a little bit closer to the words that are already on there. And so I tested it first on a word that I didn't think I would use. And at this point, I'm thinking maybe I need a little bit of green because of those stripes have green in them. But I decide, nope, I don't need green. I just need to add a few other little word strips here. And so these clear word stickers are from a past story kit as well. I can't remember which one right now, but the ones with the current story kit are very, very awesome, and I absolutely love them. And they're a tiny little type. You can kind of see them there at the top left, but they were more about like self-care and taking rest for yourself, and this was a little bit more snarky and kind of just silly, and so I didn't want to use those phrases on this layout, so I just opted out of that. So here I'm going ahead and adding in that outline to my photo, which I really like the way that ends up looking, and I'm just using a slick pen. It's not a slick writer, it's scrapbook.com's version of a slick writer, but we got that at the December daily prep party in our little, like a little goodie bag. And now I am outlining the words that I capitalized in my journaling. And I like doing that because it draws attention to the main parts of the journaling without, the person doesn't have to read it all, but it might make them want to read it all. So I capitalized one more word just to balance everything, and that is going to finish up this layout. I hope that you've enjoyed. Here are some photos at the end. Be sure to head over to allieedwards.com to check out the story kits and subscribe. I'm not sure if there's a waiting list right now for subscriptions, but it is the best thing ever. I love it. As usual, I'll link to all available supplies in the video description. And be sure to check out these other 2 videos that use Allie Edwards story kits if you're interested. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you back here very soon.